Not all types of porridge are equally healthy. And in this video, I've ranked the different types of porridge. There will be 5 categories in total as usual: A, B, C, D, and F. At the top are the most beneficial porridges, and at the bottom are the most useless or even harmful. There will be a lot of interesting information, so watch to the end. Let's get started. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell. Don't miss my new videos. So porridge number 1 is oatmeal. Of course, it has a good reputation. First of all, it contains beta-glucans. It has a lot of soluble fiber, which has a positive effect on the microbiome. Oatmeal also has a proven positive effect on our lipid profile and reduces the likelihood of cardiovascular disease. It is high in B vitamins and promotes satiety. But to be fair, there are downsides. It can contain traces of gluten, but the main disadvantage of oatmeal is the kind in which it is released. Most supermarkets sell processed oatmeal. For example, instant oatmeal. And such porridge has a minimal amount of useful substances. But if you take raw, original, whole oatmeal, it's one of the healthiest porridges. So oatmeal gets top marks. Very good. Let's move on. The next kind is rice porridge. What are its pros and cons? Well, the plus side is that it is easily digested. Therefore, it can be prescribed to a person who has problems with the stomach. It does not load the gastrointestinal tract, goes well, and is comfortably digested. But this is where the pluses end. Then the minuses begin. High glycemic index and low fiber content. It is poor in trace elements, vitamins, and minerals. In general, this porridge is not the best, and I give it the lowest grade. Let's move on. The next item is millet porridge. The plus is that it does not contain gluten and rarely causes allergies. It has magnesium, phosphorus, and B vitamins. But there are some minuses. It is still quite difficult to digest, and if a person has gastrointestinal problems, it can cause discomfort. As for the taste, it can be bitter, and not everyone likes it. But in general, there are not so many useful properties in millet porridge. Therefore, I give it an average rating. Let's move on. The next item, buckwheat porridge. On the plus side is the fact that this porridge does not contain gluten, not even a trace. Buckwheat porridge is very rich in iron, B vitamins, and rutin. It has a low glycemic index. We can't say that it is quite low, but it is acceptably average. It has a good fiber content. It has a good effect on the intestines, and the disadvantages of buckwheat are not so many. One of the few minuses that can be found is the fact that when roasting, some of the useful vitamins and minerals are destroyed. In general, buckwheat porridge gets the highest mark. Very good. Let's move on. The next item is millet porridge. The pros are that it is inexpensive. It has protein of vegetable origin, vitamins, but still the cons: high glycemic index and high gluten content. The debate about gluten, of course, has not subsided to this day. There is a certain percentage of people who have severe gluten intolerance and cannot eat gluten in any form. But the whole debate is about the majority of people who don't have a clear gluten intolerance, and so it's unclear whether or not gluten in general is harmful to the average person. There are arguments in favor of it being pro-inflammatory, that it provokes so-called leaky gut. But there are also arguments that these concerns are somewhat exaggerated. In any case, it's best to limit your gluten intake. Coming back to our wheat porridge, I will say that it is not the best. Sometimes you can eat it in small amounts. But if you have the option of healthier types of porridge, it is better to choose the healthier ones. Moving on. The next item is corn porridge. The plus side is that corn porridge contains plant protein, although not quite complete in amino acid composition. It is well digested, does not provoke allergies, does not contain gluten, but the minus side is that it has a relatively high glycemic index. And unlike many other porridges, it provokes constipation. It is not as good for our intestines as, for example, buckwheat. Therefore, corn porridge in general, taking into account all the pros and cons, is not the best option. Let's move on. The next item is semolina. Semolina is probably the most undesirable porridge of all. Well, let's start with the pros. There are some. It's easy to cook, easy to eat, and easy to digest. It has a delicate texture. Some people like the flavor, but that's where the pros end. The minus is that it has almost no nutrients. There is very little fiber in it. There are practically no vitamins, no minerals. High glycemic index. Eating semolina, we eat only sugar and nothing else. Semolina gets the lowest rating. Let's move on. The next item is quinoa. Quinoa is a very interesting food. First, it is a good source of protein with a good amino acid composition. Secondly, quinoa is rich in many minerals and vitamins. Among them are iron, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, B vitamins, and many others. Quinoa has a low glycemic index and is gluten-free. In addition, quinoa contains saponins, which are beneficial for our body. From the minuses, it is worth noting that the taste may be specific. Some will say it's tasteless, some will say it's bitter. Sometimes, especially in undercooked form, it can cause some discomfort to our gastrointestinal tract. Well, and also the cost. It is not the cheapest source of calories. But if we consider all the pros and cons in terms of benefits for the body, quinoa gets the highest mark. Very good. Let's move on. Rye porridge. It has more fiber than wheat porridge, for example. It also contains some vitamins, selenium, manganese, B vitamins, and so on. It has a small amount of gluten. Some people do not tolerate it well in terms of comfort for the stomach. Taking into account all the pros and cons in terms of the content of beneficial substances, rye porridge receives an average rating. Let's move on. Pea porridge. It's a good one. It has a lot of protein. It has a lot of fiber. It has a good effect on the lipid profile, contains many vitamins and minerals. On the downside, it causes flatulence. Also, it is a little more difficult to cook. Taking into account all the pros and cons, pea porridge is rated good. Let's move on. Lentil porridge. Yes, lentils also belong to the legume family like peas, but lentil porridge is even more interesting than pea porridge. It is very rich in protein, folic acid, iron, magnesium, and potassium. Very beneficial for the cardiovascular and nervous system. It has a low glycemic index and does not cause sugar spikes. Also, lentil porridge gives room for gourmets. It comes in different varieties: red, green, brown. It is good for soups and side dishes. It does not need to be soaked like many other legumes, and it is cooked faster and easier. It should be noted that, like many other legumes, not everyone digests this type of porridge well. In general, taking into account all the pros and cons, lentil porridge gets the highest rating. Very good. By the way, write in the comments, what is your favorite porridge and what you eat most often? For example, I start every morning with oatmeal, and for lunch, I usually eat either quinoa or buckwheat. What about you? Tell us, it will be interesting. And now I highly recommend you watch my other video where I ranked fruits from the healthiest to the most harmful. The link to the video just popped up on your screen. Be sure to check it out, it's very interesting. And if you enjoyed this video, then click the like button and subscribe to my channel. And see you on the video about fruits.